Okay, we're here with Tom Brewer, and he's running for the 435th Judicial District Court. And we've already talked about ground rules. I'm John Wirtz, with Ms. Del Fessenden and Bob Bagley. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom with his opening.
Well, I am Tom Brewer. Moved to Montgomery County officially hard about a year and a half ago. Been working here for about 4.5 years. Came here working for the state of Texas and started working in the 435th as an attorney. It's a rough place to work, has been a rough place to work, and it's changed, and it's going to continue to change. And at this particular juncture, I'm not the only one who thinks that we need to make a considerable change in that court, or we're going to have some problems. I should take that back. We already have problems. We're going to have more problems. It's about to become a court of general jurisdiction, and that means that it's going to impact the lives of every citizen in Montgomery County potentially. That's important. Its primary function up till now, until last year, has been to do civil commitment hearings, civil commitment trials, and did about 50 of those a year. In the 4.5 years I've been here, only one person who's been tried in those courts has actually been from Montgomery County. The rest of them are from all the rest of the state, from all over the rest of the state of Texas. So the concept of protecting the citizens of Montgomery County, that's not exactly what was going on. The civil commitment caseload has been removed. It was removed for a reason. And the reasons that were removed are now staring the citizens of Montgomery County straight in the eye. There's some serious questions about judicial discretion on the bench, the ability to be fair and impartial, and the ability to get a fair trial in the 435th. Some serious questions about how that courtroom is run. I've been yelled at a little bit. It's okay, I can take it. I can take a lot of stuff. I've been around for a hot minute, and I've had a very interesting and colorful life. And you're not gonna bother me if you're gonna jump at me a little bit. I can handle it. But there are some things that you just can't allow to go wrong. If you're going in for a criminal case, prosecution really isn't going to need a lot of help making their case. They definitely don't need it from the judge. And it's a good chance that might happen if it goes the same way it's gone for the past 4.5 years. That's a problem. You need to be able to properly defend yourself. It's going to be interesting because not only that, you're going to have civil cases going in. General jurisdiction could be anything. It could be your car insurance. Just any number of things that can be happening. This court had a small criminal docket before, and it was taken away. Now I've seen some things about, well, it wasn't taken away because of this or that or the other. Let's think about it realistically. You got a court that specializes in one thing. They took that away. It had a small criminal docket. They took that away. And the court, it wasn't idle, but it was so close to it. That's honestly, for about 9 months, people in Montgomery County didn't get anything out of the 435th. And if you're not careful, you're going to find yourself looking at 4 more years of exactly the same thing, because it will rear its ugly head again. That's a given, because it's already started to go down that path. And so I'm a little bit ahead of 4 minutes, but please have at it.
Okay, thank you. I was actually just a juror in that court. It was a visiting judge. McCorkle. In that case. So to my understanding, I looked over the reprimand, and I'm bringing it up because you brought it up in your opening, and you're the challenger here. To my understanding, he's been reprimanded and he's had the justice counseling, I believe. So with that, I think now it's back to a there's probably a couple questions that I have in here. It's back to a general court, you know, jurisdiction, general jurisdiction, like you said, and that he would be hearing criminal trials, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I know there was a concern, and I've read in the paper that, hey, we're losing all this money from around the state, you know, that went into the court to pay for the court, but wasn't a lot of these trials not based in, from Montgomery County, some of the perpetrators? I mean, these were statewide type cases that came in. So consequently, you know, I don't know, and I've heard this from several people. I'm not sure that is that a deal killer that we, you know, we lost this revenue from the state, but we were trying people from out of the county. So I don't know. Help me rationalize that, why that's a problem of losing that and not turning our focus more on Montgomery County. You know, because we've got 600 to 700 people that are in jail right now for pretrial.
You know what? I can answer that question.
Okay.
You have a judicial district. This is the second judicial district. And for the period of time, as you said, you met Judge McCorkle. You probably met Judge, if you stayed in the court, you'll have met Judge Ryder, you'll have met Judge Black. All these individuals have been judges who have sat in for Judge Sile. They get paid. And they get paid a healthy sum for every day that they're in that court. Most of that comes from Judge Underwood's budget. So those are all dollars that are being spent to cover the fact that we have inefficiency on the bench. Now, how much of that comes out of Montgomery County exactly, I can't tell you. But it's coming from somewhere. Is it coming from the state? I don't know. But I will say that it's a pretty good waste. Because if the sitting judge is doing what he's supposed to be doing, then you don't have to pay those visiting judges. And you've been paying visiting judges now for a long time in Montgomery County. There's a second part of your question.
Well, that's what I was leading to, and I guess to expound on that, since we have about a minute left, is it just Siler, you know, who's causing this backlog, or is it all the courts, or most of the courts, some of the courts?
I can't speak to all the courts. I can say that in Judge Siler's court, it's probably the most interesting because that's the one where you've had numerous other judges sitting. I don't think you've had that problem in other courts. If you have, I haven't heard about it. And in my world, we kind of sit in a small area. Now, we are trying cases all over the state of Texas because that's the way the legislature had to make the changes. Mm-hmm. But if you really think about it, if he had been doing the right thing, the law wouldn't have to change. And it's that simple. You do the right thing, we're okay. If you don't, we got a problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to absorb one of the comments you made toward the end of your opening there about we're already started down that path. Could you please elaborate on that, explain, try to eliminate the confusion? I'm trying to get my arms around that.
It's something that most people don't know about. If you've dealt with civil commitment, as I have, then you realize that there's still over 300 cases in the 435th for these guys from all over the state. And there's actually a case. It's a case for a guy by the name of Paul Keene. This case, the state of Texas and Mr. Keene's attorneys who are coming out of our office have an agreed judgment that they presented to the court. Y'all know what an agreed judgment is, right?
I do not.
No. So you guys have never been divorced. You're kind of like me. All right.
Yeah, Ben, but
Don't remember this.
It's when both sides get together and decide this is what we want to do moving forward. Both sides, in the case of Mr. Keene, got together and agreed they want to set him free. He's 83 years old.
How?
83.
Oh.
And they decided they want to set him free. They presented the documentation to the court. The court refused to sign. You don't, I mean, you can't, as a judge, you can't be forced to sign an agreed judgment. but you don't not sign an agreed judgment. It's just kind of that simple. When the parties agree, you kind of give them what they want.
Did you give a reason why?
That's what I mean by going down that road again. When you read the excuse that he put forward, and you have to read it yourself. I can't tell you everything that's in it. But he's made it clear that his position is that no one goes free. And that's very important. I don't know if we have time to go that, but in order for civil commitment to be constitutional with respect to the 300 some odd people who are in it in Montgomery County, there has to be a clear path for those who complete treatment and do well to get out. So as long as he's sitting, they can't get out.
Now, help me a little bit with timing here, because the implication was up until a certain point, Judge Seiler was sitting on those cases on the bench, and then you had visiting judges since then. So where did this case fall in the timeline that you're reciting?
After everything, after the deal with the courts and with the reprimand, happened after that.
I thought you had visiting judges. So
The visiting judges have been sitting, but with respect to the Keene case, that was heard by Seiler. That's a Judge Seiler.
okay.
And on Monday, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because there's another case where the guy has been provided permission for an authorized petition for release, which again is the state of Texas saying, we want this guy out. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes.
Will that go before Judge Seiler?
It's going before Judge Seiler on Monday the 20th. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Okay, Bob?
I don't have my question. I was trying to find it back on my phone, but we have a question on the questionnaire about the Texas and U.S. constitutions being living documents.
Yes.
Number 5.
Okay. I couldn't get to that. So can you elaborate a little?
Well, the comment, I think, was, are living documents if we want them to be both constitutions. What is that? What do you mean by that?
It's really simple. What we've been doing nationally with the Constitution, and usually we think in terms of the national Constitution, because the Texas Constitution and the United States Constitution, they are very, very similar documents. And they both support exactly the same things. They support our freedoms as individuals, Texans and as American citizens. And as times have changed, the basic rights of Americans, and ones that were fought for in the very beginning, we still have the same desires to have those same freedoms. And personally, I think that they've been eroded. I think we've been sliding and we've been letting them get away. I don't spend as much time listening to what the Supreme Court says, but it seems like every time I hear about another opinion, it's another right that's slipped away or it's been lessened. And I find that problematic. I know that people are afraid, but I've seen so many times that they'll thing, the American flag out there and saying these colors don't run. I'm not a big fan of running. I'm not as young and spry as I used to be, but I'm not running. Terrorists only win if you give in to terror. Not about to give in. If I want to go somewhere and take my wife out to dinner, we're going. It's that simple. If they want to run into me, good luck to them. That's just kind of how it works. But I don't want to see our government become so concerned about security that they forget that security has no value if you have no freedom. And that's what worries me the most. So in terms of living documents, yes, I would like to see them continue to be the documents that provide us with the freedoms that people have fought so hard and died for, including as we move forward in these more advanced times.
Okay, so my idea of the living document is that it's constantly being able to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
you think we ought to be able to do that, constantly change the Constitution, right?
I think unfortunately we do change it, but we don't change it hard copy. We do it through case law. And when the courts write their opinions, if their opinions were in line with what's on the paper, on the black and white paper of the Constitution, that would be fine.
Right.
Because I think, in all actuality, the very essence of those documents has really stood the test of time. Freedom of religion, it's still the same thing. You don't really need to expound on those concepts. It's clear in the document. You've got it.
Right.
Freedom of the press, freedom of speech, you've got it. The question then becomes, with the courts, how much do we curtail it? And they're curtailing it more and more and more. Let's go back and take a look at what the document actually says. And then you can open it back up. Are there new things that may need to be added? Yeah, quite possibly. But then no one's going to do anything unless voters send legislators to Washington, D.C. who want to make a change. And they have to send their legislators to the capitals because the Constitution requires change not only in D.C. but out here in the country. So it's one of those situations where if there's a loud enough cry, if people want it, you can get it. The hard part is getting people to figure out what they want, get them together, and make a move in that direction. If we don't do that, it's going to be hard.
That kind of leads right into my question of, there's no doubt that precedents set in other cases has gotten us, anytime there's a precedent set, it gets us further away from the Constitution. You know, whether it's U.S. or a state constitution, because there's some change that's come down the pipe. And typically, it's not gonna be good. You know, a wise man once told me that a state legislator is more effective if he blocks legislation than if he passes it, whether he's state or U.S. So with that, we had a couple rulings from the bench in the form of the Affordable Care Act and the Marriage Act. Where do you stand on those two?
If the Marriage Act is the one that I think you're talking about, that has to do with
Obergefell.
Pardon?
Obergefell.
Okay, that one I'm not familiar with. Believe it or not,
Gay marriage.
okay, that's an issue. I don't really worry about that one. I don't. I know a lot of people are. I don't worry about it because it's not me. I don't stick my nose into the lives of other people. Don't want to. Their lives, their money, their children, whatever they decide to do, they have the freedom to do it. To that particular extent, I'm kind of a freedom guy. I don't believe in interfering with the lives of others. I won't tell somebody if they can't do anything, whether it's the same thing that I would do or not. You know, I'm not married to a guy.
But some of the same freedoms that you are bemoaning that we're losing, those have been the result of those types of rulings.
Yes,
Baker,
possible.
you know, the baker in Oregon and the cake maker and right on down the line.
It's possible.
Kim Davis in Kentucky. You think that was a loss of freedom?
Is that the young lady who would not?
Clerk.
Yes,
County clerk.
okay, I know what you're talking about. Actually, I'll tell you, I understand her position, but she did the wrong thing. And you may get upset with me about that, but she took a job. She took a job, and the job is to follow the law in that particular instance. If she doesn't want to follow the law, she should step down. That's the right thing for her to do. If she wants to change the law, she should follow the right steps to do that. But to simply say, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to, it's not my belief, that's not the right way to go about it. You have to follow the law. If we're going to be a nation of laws, you've got to follow it. If you don't like the law, change it. That's the right way to do it. Right now, this may not be the way you guys want to go. What you're seeing right now, that may not be the law you want. You've got 330 million other Americans out there Get them online with what you want and change it to whatever you want. And whichever way you go, as long as you're following the law, I will be with you. But I'm not going to hurt my fellow citizen. I'm not going to break the law. I'm a lawyer. I do happen to love the law.
Okay, so that specifically addressed the public servant who took job.
Can you hold on?
Okay.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
What about the private industry? People who choose for religious reasons not to provide services in those situations? The baker, right on down the line.
Once again, it's their business. I'm not going to tell somebody what he or she can't do with their business.
But that is what has happened. I know you weren't the judge in that case, but that seems to be the predominant way the judicial profession is dealing with it.
Well, the only thing I can say is, if it's being upheld, then it's being upheld through case law. And, you know, I may be the only black person you guys speak to for this entire process. And there was definitely a time when I wouldn't be in this room. And there was a time when I'm old enough to remember, I was still a youngster, when I couldn't go into certain stores. I can go in now. I have a job, I earn money. I think I'm a pretty good citizen. But the basis for that bias against me was wrong. It was wrong. I don't know how to put a handle on people, the feelings that people have towards other people or for other people. I can't. I'm just a guy, just like you guys are. I understand people have strong feelings. That's why we have laws. And you do the best you can do. I would like to see some changes. There are things that appellate courts do every day that drive me crazy. But I can't fix it. I live in Montgomery County. I want to do the best I can for Montgomery County. I really think I can do a good job. But I will never be in a position, unless for some reason I wind up on a court of appeals, where I can make case law. And even if I do get there, to be honest with you, do you know what I'm going to pick up and read before I make a decision? Take a guess. The Constitution. I'll pick up the Texas Constitution, I'll pick up the Constitution of the United States of America, and that's what I'll go to as my reference point. And they don't do that nowadays. They go to their prior case law, they go to their precedent. I do not believe that bad law is ever stable. You can always change it. There's appellate law, appellate decisions, opinions are changed all the time. It's there to be done. If you send the right people to your courts of appeals, you make the changes, they will change your law. If you don't send them, when you look at your appellate courts and see how long they've been sitting, and these are old guys, okay? Very few old girls, but a lot of old guys. If you don't like what they're doing, change them. You have the power. You execute it every couple of years. Make it happen.
We're in the process of doing
I have two favorite judges. Neither one of them's still on the bench, and that's Judge John Devine, Texas Supreme Court judge. And then Ted Poe, Congressman Poe. Both of those individuals did some out-of-the-box sentencing for people. Whether they put a billboard on them or a sandwich board and made them walk around and, you know, I fought the law and the law won, or I beat my wife, that'll never happen again, or, you know, something like that. My biggest one, and one of my biggest concerns is we have a number of drunk driving accidents, deaths in Montgomery County. And a lot of times the sentences are good, but I believe that there can be some things added to it. And this wasn't a drunk driving incident, but it was maybe reckless driving. A young teenager ran a stoplight and killed 3 people. Not texting, not, just ran a stoplight. There's 3 crosses on the corner of 13, 14 and 336. Part of his sentencing when he got out of jail was to make sure that that area was completely cleaned, manicured, everything every month. And if it isn't done, he goes back to jail. Time served is good for a period of time, but when you have something that continues on like this, it's a constant reminder of the actions that you took that it affected a lot of lives. Do you see yourself making any type of out-of-the-box sentencing for things like that?
I think I answered when I said every case has to be decided on its own merits. I'm not used to the things that you just said. However, it's not that I haven't heard of them before. And is it probable that's a really good idea? Yeah, it's probably that's a really good idea. One of the problems I do have with what happens a lot of times in criminal cases is you've got people who say they want to be hard on crime. That's fine. It's not smart, but it's fine. You've got to do the smart thing. The young person you're talking about, first of all, if they've done it even once, if they've gone out to that spot even once and done what they're ordered to do, they show that they learned something, and they're going to be more careful. One of the things a jail's supposed to do is teach a lesson. Anything that you can do that, 1, is cost effective, and 2, awakens that feeling of responsibility in a person, that's something you should take into consideration. And so I can do that. I might need someone whispering in my ear, hey, Tom, you know what? This would work really well. And I'm open to that kind of thing. I don't know everything. I've been alive for 57 years, but I don't walk on water. Okay?
That's
don't
good.
do it. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Okay? I don't know everything. And the only thing I've learned, there's 2 things. 1, that I don't know everything. And 2, that the smartest thing for me to do sometimes is open my ears and not my mouth. Which is kind of why it scares me. But that's just the cold hard facts, you know. If you are smart enough to listen to what other people say, everyone will benefit in the end. And that's just simply an opportunity, giving an opportunity to a young person. I can't even imagine. I have 2 kids. The idea, they're 27 and 31. If anything happened to them, it wouldn't matter that they're grown or if they were 3 and 7. I'd be done. Just done. And if you lost 3 lives, that's your family, your friends, it's a mistake. If it was done intentionally, that's one thing.
Right.
But it's a costly mistake. And people make them, and will make them, and will continue to make them until we're no longer walking and talking every single day. If you've got a person that you can make not make it again, yeah, that's the right thing to do. That's the smart thing to do.
Thanks.
I have to dig in my electronic notes to come up with the next way. Okay, you say that Justice Roberts is the best judge, and he has problems. You have problems with Scalia and the Bill of Rights. How is Roberts on rights when he forces us to buy health care?
I'm glad you asked the question. And I'll tell you, I'm not a big fan of the Affordable Health Care Act. I think it was a pretty bad piece of legislation from the get-go. I'm almost okay with it being in existence because it's going to force a change. It's that bad. You can see that going in. It was that bad. So, as a Republican, the one question that I got in front of me is why is it that our representatives in DC haven't taken that bill and made it one that's a Republican bill and moved it up? I have a feeling Obama would sign it if we could put a decent bill in front of him. It would have a choice. But why haven't we done that? We can make it work. As an American, I don't believe there's nothing that we can't do. I'm not one of those people who will sit back and say, oh, they did it right, or they did it right. Why can't we fix it? I'm not a person who surrenders. So I want to see that fixed. But is it a tax? And that was the decision that had to be made. Is it a tax? And the answer is yes. Why? Because we're going to pay for it no matter what. Think about it. If they go to the county hospital, if it's going to be included into your insurance premiums, doesn't matter what happens. All Americans pay for it. It's a tax. All you're doing is redirecting where the money goes. How many dollars are we spending out of every $100? 40 or I don't know, percent of what? It's ridiculous the amount we're spending on healthcare. And it's all because it's going where? Insurance companies. That's the big lobby. Let's be realistic. That's the big lobby. What happens if we were to do government healthcare? Okay, let's say we actually put an effective government healthcare program into position. And I know most people think, oh, you can't do that. And I tell you, you can, but because as a military brat, Vietnam era, when I broke my leg, the doctor who saw me was a Vietnam guy. And I got great care. And that's government health care. Would it be the same out here in the civilian world? Only if we held our feet to the fire on it. But it's a possibility. But let's say we were able to do something. We were able to put a system like that that's actually had enough gumption in it to make it work. Because if anybody can do it, it better be us. What goes away? What goes away is this huge, profit-driven industry between you and your healthcare provider. All those dollars that you're spending every month, what are you guys paying? $400 or $500 a month for healthcare? It's not cheap. And they don't make small salaries. They are paid well. And the whole objective of their industry is not to make you go see the doctor, it's to make sure you don't go see the doctor. Make sure you don't get the care you need. So, yeah, he followed the law. It is a tax. It's something we all pay. Does that mean he followed the law? Does that mean it was beneficial for us? It doesn't mean it was beneficial for us. It means that we now have a law that makes us pay money to a business conglomerate that's just going to get fatter and fatter and fatter because you have to pay them.